Hello and welcome to Patito's Gang. It has been over 1 month since the academic staff of universities, also known as ASU, started its strike on August 14, 2017. Why do we see so many recurring strikes in Nigeria? The gang looks into reasons that could be causing this. Let's have a look.
Strike. You know, it kind of reminds me of one of my, I don't know what to call it, one of the headlines that I've never managed to forget. It was 1968 headline, Time magazine. And it went something like this: Christ is dead, Marx is dead, and I'm not feeling too well myself. You know, in many ways, strike. I think I'm on strike, but I'm working. Am I on strike or am I working? Somebody tell me what I am doing.
Well,
what's going on?
Strike. Some of the reasons that I have, the economy is biting. Inflation. People's take-home pay cannot take them home. You have agreements that the government continues to flout due to lack of political will. And you see stagnation. A lot of people have been receiving the same salary for years. And I think that if we want a system that works, if we want professionals that will excel, we need to take care of them through paying them well, so that their take-home pay will take them home. And this economy that is biting, they'll be able to meet all the needs.
But are we discussing issues of productivity at these conversations?
I think we should just even situate it in some context. Why do we have this recurring issue of strikes? Let's even deal with the symptoms. It's either that this government, they don't have processes for dealing with issues, okay? Or there are no structures for attending to what they said they would do. Because if there is some kind of planning, what they are talking about today is not new. They had discussed this over.
Sorry, before you continue, you said this government is being a recurring despot. It's not only this government, it's been...
Yes, but they are the ones in power now. We have elected them to do what others could not do.
Yes, but we need that wholesome solution so that tomorrow we don't get back.
Let's even track the history of strike. I think the first major strike in Nigeria happened in 1945. When all the major unions came together to strike, both the railway workers, the transport workers,
general strike.
The general strike of 1945. 73 years later, we are still talking about the same thing.
Strike.
And how many governments have we had since then? So many of them. So there's a problem with us as a people. I don't think it's only just this government, where integrity is at a minus here. When I have a deal or an agreement with you and you don't keep to it, it trickles down to the common man on the streets.
But is it a planning problem? Because if we agree that I will pay you 20 kobo a week next year, surely when I'm doing my budget for next year, I will remember that, sorry, we agreed 20 kobo a week. What's the consequence for that budget? And some process starts. Is it a problem of planning? I mean, Charles, you were onto that subject. Do we have a planning crisis?
It's both a planning crisis and an integrity deficit. So why do you agree to something you knew you wouldn't do? Because they sat at table 12 months ago and agreed some payments were going to be made. And in September last year, they planned a budget.
But some people say crude oil prices went down. How the hell do you run a country on crude oil prices?
Did we not know that crude oil prices were crashing 3 years ago? Crude oil prices
I even see it as lack of political will, honestly.
So even if crude oil prices crashed, you planned a budget based on expected revenue. So how did you distribute that expenditure as regards to ASU teachers, ASU strike? Because you agreed with them, we are going to part with 320 billion. Where did you expect that to come from? So how did you budget for this? Or was it that when you were talking with them at those sessions, you were talking for the sake of talk? Talk is cheap.
The insincerity of the government can...
So it's about insincerity, first and foremost.
That's doing the needful.
No, insincerity.
And then doing the needful.
They were not committed to what they were saying. They just wanted that talk to be over.
So that means they abandoned leprosy to look for cure for eczema.
What is
just they left the needful.
What of those of us who suffer from both?
But why they said the fuel oil prices crashed in the international market, and they were asking the Nigerian workers to, okay, take the bite of the recession or the economy as the case may be, they, the political class, refused to cut down on their own expenses.
And this,
So there's no correspondence in the...
It's a very critical part of this conversation, because you see, you get a group of university lecturers who are sitting here, and you've told them they're going to go from 100 naira to 150, and they know you are taking 10,000 naira home. They know you didn't invest as much in your education as they invested in theirs,
Yes.
and they know that 40 years ago, a professor of medicine at the University of Lagos earned higher than the Prime Minister of Nigeria.
Sure.
And you expect that your conversation will go well, and something is wrong in the general mindset that we have built up in the country. How are we going to begin to address those kinds of mindsets? What's value in our society? You know, and it comes back to this question of how much do we pay our public office holders? Why is it? I mean, I was giving a lecture at Umudike Michael Okpara University of Agriculture a couple of years ago. The Vice Chancellor was the chairman of the occasion. And he said to me, look, all these things you are talking, look, our best graduating student last year, we offered him a position to come back, as we used to say, those as a junior fellow. Then train him, becomes a PhD. The guy looks at us and thinks something's wrong with us, and promptly becomes PA to local government chairman. Are these the values
Our reward
that
system.
we want? Our reward system is obviously becoming a major disincentive for investing in the right things.
Yes.
So, how do you, as somebody negotiating with university professors, with medical doctors, with NASU, SASU, FUSU, and all the SUs, how do you say to them, look, be patient, hold back, when to know what is happening with you? Usually politicians take the least in income because they've gone there to sacrificially give of themselves.
Sacrificially,
But that's
that's
not
the
the
no
same.
sacrifice.
Nigerian
Any.
conditions.
So
Yeah.
I think it takes us back to the issue of reorientating our society and putting pressure on the people in government. How we are going to do it is another debate. The question then is, how do we begin to ensure that we create a kind of environment that even encourages the growth of our educational system? Because the people in government are there now for self-preservation. Everything they do is about them. How do I sustain myself for the next and prepare myself for the next election? That's all they are thinking about, the next election. So how are we as a people able to put pressure on them to reorientate our society and put more value on education through the building blocks?
Is there some way of agreeing that things are so bad that we need to begin again?
That's what
Just literally crash the entire system.
That's what is
and
coming.
begin
That's
from-
what it is.
Well, for the education,
restructure the whole thing, everything.
well, we can start from the education sector, as Charles has asked. How do we? I think one of the most pragmatic ways to start is to tell them, any public officer, if you have assumed a public office, you can no longer send your children. It's a radical approach, which we must implement. You cannot send your children to school in private schools in Nigeria or in public schools overseas. And in that way, give us 4 years, our public schools will be better for it. But that is a radical approach, and it is
Let me tell you, there was one research that we carried out, one statistics, and we said,
Who are we?
women arise, women arise, and we just said, let's find out how many people in government have their children in private schools and outside the country. And somebody just told us that will not make any news, because you find out that almost everyone within that setup will have their children in private school or outside the
And
country.
they throw it in our faces. In social media pictures, graduation ceremonies here and there.
Yes, so there must be a change
But
of mindset.
It brings me to a political conversation meeting I was at some time ago. Somebody was making a point that he went north and was talking about free education. This was in the 60s. And I said, free education? I said, yes. Well, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, his children and the driver's children go to the same school, and they actually go in the same car. And the person said to him that he needed his head to be examined. How can the premier's children go to the same school as? So, is it that we have different mindsets about the nature of the society that we want? If this is the case, how do we create a more just society?
The etymology of the word minister is a servant. If you interpret the meaning of a minister, the etymology, the root word is minister means servant. But the Nigerian minister is the lord of the manor. So So that orientation, that reorientation should start from there, that when you're in public service, you are a servant to the people. But here, we are the masters. And then we dole it out, we make sure we subjugate the people, and we run amok. And then the citizens are so docile. And then we go, let these people go unchallenged. Today, while I was coming here, I mean, a retinue of cars, with siren blowing, nearly pushed me off the Third Mainland Bridge. I don't know who was inside there.
Well, you're lucky that you didn't go.
So these are the mentalities of these people.
Okay. I think on the note of this retinue, I will go and consult with my Babalawo to find out if I will be in trouble next time I drive on the Third Mainland Bridge. Be right back.
How would Nigeria's school system be if our public officials were mandated to have their children in Nigerian public schools, especially the Minister of Education? The gang suggests this as one possible solution. What are your thoughts? Let's take it to the streets.
When the government is saying that way, it will be reduced. We don't want people that are just striving to get there.
Not too sure if going on strike is the best solution to get government attention. Fine, if our government could get everything right at the same time, workers will not be going on strike every now and then. But the most important thing is for our labor union, irrespective of either trade union or labor, to come to terms with government on how best the issues relating to their welfare and every other thing could be resolved without going on strike.
Strike, I don't think is the best option, because at least with strike, it's only those who are actually probably, like, let me give an example now, lecturers. Lecturers have been on strike since I think 2015. I'm a student and I'm on IT. I'm a student of Lalike Akintola University, that's Lautech, and we've been on strike since 2015. I've been in final year since 2015. And I'm still in final year due to strike. So sometimes strike is not really the best option, because considering the children, the student, and even the parents of those they sent to school, and they're expecting them to, they calculated that okay, by this social year they will have graduated from school, but probably because of the strike they have to spend more time, more years in school, and you see at times it affects them, and it even affects them physically, it affects them mentally, because when they see some of their mates on service, some of them are already working already, some of them are already doing some things, because they are not yet qualified, they are limited to doing something. So at times, strike is not always the best option, but the government too, I think that's the only language you understand.